Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our next episode of Whistle Talk. Again, we're trying out that live stream tonight again, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you go to the YouTube channel, check it out on YouTube. You can find the links on Twitter or X, I should say. And please hit that subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. It's for free and it helps with my algorithms, which again, I keep repeating myself. I have no idea what the hell that even means, but that's what the podcast world tells me I should do is ask for likes and subscriptions. So if you could do that, I do know that it's going to help get the information out there a little bit quicker. So Spotify, Apple, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And ladies and gents, if you have any questions at all, please feel free, shoot me an email, comment, Mike D, the referee at gmail.com. I am here for you. So with that all fun stuff being said, tonight I got a buddy of mine on, somebody that I've had a number of good chats with. I've been on his show. Him and I have been on a couple of other shows together. I got Daniel Chamberlain joining us today from the great state of Oklahoma. What's going on, Daniel? How are you tonight?
I'm doing very well. The state of Oklahoma is great. Unfortunately, our football team is suffering this year. So
I wasn't going to go there with you. I know it was a touchy subject.
yeah, it's been a wild one. But no, man, doing very well. Our team is playing well, and Mike, I keep trying to push people to your show because this has been a great evolutionary year for me in football with all the rules I've learned from you. I can't speak highly enough of all that. So
I appreciate that.
Going very well.
So tell the listeners out there a little bit about your background with football and a fellow podcaster and a fellow bourbon drinker. Ladies and gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers. So before I tell you about myself, let's talk bourbon since you brought it up. I'm actually sampling for my first time ever live on the show tonight some Stag. This is what used to be called Old Batch 19 is now Batch 22B is in boy. So that's what I'm starting with. And then we're going to move to some Benchmark Foolproof because if you're a Buffalo Trace fan, which I assume you are, if you drink bourbon at all, you found some version of Buffalo Trace. That lineup is great top to bottom. And the bottom is their Benchmark. I think this is like $25 to $28 a bottle for the old Benchmark Foolproof. So that's where we're at tonight, man. Buffalo Trace from top to bottom.
So Daniel and I are both looking for a Buffalo Trace. We're looking for a Buffalo Trace sponsors. If Buffalo Trace is out there listening, that's what I'm drinking tonight too. So anybody from Buffalo Trace, please reach out to us.
It's fantastic. If you haven't had Stag, that is really good. That's a grand pour. All right, so about me, I do drink bourbon and coffee and beer, and I call myself a connoisseur jokingly, but that's just one of my hobbies is things that are roasted or brewed, right? They always seem.
There you go.
So in football, I started coaching 5 years ago. I am in my 19th year now in the military. I came back from a deployment, and one of my mentors, my mentor in life was my defensive coordinator in high school. His name's Kenny Ridley. And Kenny called me when I got back and basically said, dude, you've got the heart for it. I think you should become a football coach. So I used what's called Troops to Teachers. It's a federal program and you got a liaison at your state. Every state has one. Anyway, they basically took my biology degree, which I had received from the University of Oklahoma. So I'm a true fan. And then they made it into a teaching certificate, which allowed me to obviously be able to coach without going back to school to become a teacher, which is a great way to get into it. And so I did that. Got through my first year by the skin of my teeth. I think we went 4-5 that year. It was COVID. It was 2020. So we had some cancellations, got to the first round of
Yeah.
playoffs because everyone did, and got our teeth kicked in for 60 minutes and a long bus ride home. So that summer, or that winter, I suppose, getting into the spring, I decided it was time to learn ball, and I jumped on Google and typed, because I was defensive coordinator my first year as well. Like day 3, became the DC. So I just jumped on Google and typed, what's the best defense for high school football? And a gentleman by the name of Joe Daniel popped up, and it said Joe Daniels 425. And kind of the rest was history, man. I got signed up for Joe's program. I started, I think I did 1 month at his monthly price and signed up for an annual. Obviously started learning ball there. If you want to become a better coach, go look at joedanielfootball.com. He has got some amazing stuff on there. I call it like exponential growth. I mean, in 3 years, I could sit in a room of 10-year vets in the business and talk ball and know what I'm talking about. You know, the imposter syndrome kind of went away. It's a great place to go learn ball. But that next summer, he sent out an email asking for anybody of his followers or any of his insiders for the Joe Daniel system if they wanted to become a co-host on his podcast. And that's I sent in an email and said, here's like 15 reasons why you shouldn't hire me, or however many I sent in. And it was, I'm too new. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm learning ball from you right now. I don't know the terminology. There was just so many things. Like, I don't know very much. And then I said, here's a short list of why you should hire me. And it was like, I already had a podcast studio set up, which meant I had an HD camera, a webcam, and a microphone that wasn't very good at the time. And essentially all the same reasons he shouldn't hire me, I said he should, right? I'm a new book. You want to write the story of how football is supposed to be taught? That can be me. You can teach me all the things, your terminology. Yeah, and so it worked. He sent me a link and said, okay, log on this time. We'll talk a little bit. I joined the link. It was my very first show. So we jumped right into it. And I've been doing it ever since. So that was summer of 21. So I'm just over 3 years with Joe. And
so let me pause really quick. Let me just recap for everybody. So you were basically thrust into a defensive coordinator job after 3 days of being on the job. And then after basically an email or two, you're now co-host on Joe Daniel Football.
That's correct. That's
how boy.
Fast forward to spring 23. Kenny Simpson, as everybody knows from FBCoachSimpson.com, and he used that same tagline on everything. But he had come on the show a couple times, and he lives down here closer to me in Oklahoma. He's in Arkansas. And I'd gone to a few of his gun tea clinics, and he basically reached out and said he wanted to start a podcast. So now we have that going. It's just over, let's see, we're probably around 18 to 20 months old now, kind of getting on in there. So, yeah, man, very quickly went from a guy who knows nothing about football. I played a little bit in high school and walked on a D2 college team and never touched the field. And now I talk football 24 hours a day.
And there's nothing better, is there?
No, it really is the best. Working with Joe, I learned one system. I jumped in with Kenny. I get to learn another one, and it just gave me the concepts and the ability to kind of hybridize everything. So now I do consulting on the side. I consult for some youth teams. I talk with, even up into the varsity realm, I talk with those guys all the time. Actually, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. That's where any level can come on and we can talk ball. There's tiers there for everything from I'll be an assistant coach with you to, hey, just look at my offense and tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yep. So Daniel and I actually, that's how we first met. I got to be a guest on Joe's show, and Daniel and I got to talking, and the next thing I know, he's texting me. I'm texting him with some questions, and we're going back and forth, and then we're guests on another show together. So it's been a pretty good ride. And the one thing, and Daniel and I were talking off the air before we started, just the football community and talking football and how it's such. No matter what aspect of football you're involved in, it's still just a tight-knit community, and it's fun just to sit there and just talk football. Now, my wife, she's like, well, you got another podcast, you're missing your son's baseball game right now. I'm like, well, I've seen 99.9% of them, so it's okay. And I'm looking at the score now. They're winning 16-2, so I'm not really missing anything right now. So he'll forgive me, but get to talk some football again tonight.
That's right. Yeah, the 7 day a week football. I guess the normal guy would probably burn out and get tired of doing it, but whatever it is about my brain, man, I never grow tired of it. I love it. Just talking ball all the time. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that said, one of the reasons, and through text messages, Daniel and I going back and forth, that we've been talking about, and a topic I want to hit on tonight is not just coaches in general, the perception of coaches on officials, but you actually brought it to my attention, fans' perception on officials. So, do you want to elaborate on that, or do you want me to go into it?
Absolutely. No, I will snitch on my family right now. So I'm a high school football coach up in Northeast Oklahoma. My family is basically all the rest of them are down in South Central Oklahoma, and they have no idea about anything football related. Right? It doesn't run in our family. Very few of them are even college fans. I'm not sure that any of them ever actually attended a college game, that they didn't go with us to a tailgate or something. But their children, my nephews, have gotten to be football playing age. So I have a senior nephew that has actually joined the military as well, and he's playing his senior year out. And he's going to be he's pretty good at football, but he's not like a college athlete.
Okay.
And then I have a freshman level nephew who is probably going to go stone people out in the D2 world someday, because he is just a chunk of block out there on the football field. So, needless to say, my family now goes to high school football games and junior high football games, and I actually have a younger nephew who plays in like a junior high type level. My mother has began going and recording clips of the game or whatever and sending them to me. Look how good your nephew did. Look at this. Look at that. Just several funny videos, and I enjoy them because, once again, I love football and I love my family, so I'm cool talking football with them as much as they can, kind of go back and forth with me. But I got a video of a family member yelling at the refs at a junior high game about a missed penalty, call, throw the flag's in your pocket, you've missed it a bunch of times tonight, right? And it's, my mom sent it to me, like, expecting me, I think, to bandwagon with my family to be like, these refs stink. And I was like, it's a junior high game. Everyone kind of wants to get in there and get out and go home. You shouldn't be heckling the refs. We already have a very low number of refs. I know a lot of people across the nation have started doing Thursday and Saturday games, and we're part of it, right? We've done Thursday. I don't know if anybody's played Saturday here in Oklahoma yet or not, but we're already hurting for refs. And so I basically I just told her, like, quit yelling at refs. It's not your place. You don't even know what you're talking about. It probably was a clean play. I don't know. So it just kind of brought, of course we all hear it, right? Every game you go to, every piece of laundry on the field, you're hearing it from one crowd or the other. And it doesn't matter what level. I went to an OU game, not too long ago, and there was a penalty, and the whole stadium is booing the refs. Texas and Georgia last night, Saturday night, right? They had the crazy pass interference, interception, was it one, with a picked up, because the fans were throwing beer on the field, right? So it's
that was nutty.
Yeah, it's a part of the game that I think we don't talk as coaches. All you can do is control the controllables. All you can do is control yourself. I know the OSSAA this year has, and maybe the NHSA, I don't know, but they basically told all fans, like, you get 2 warnings, or your second warning, you're out for the rest of the year. You will not come back to games. So they're really kind of buckling down on it, which I'm glad. And anyway, yeah, that's a really long way to say fans stop yelling at refs.
And I know I've talked about it before. It's an emotional sport. Your kids are out on the field. You're looking out for your kids' safety. Ladies and gentlemen, so are we. Majority of us are dads or moms. I don't want to. There's a lot of female officials that are out there too.
Right.
I we kind of joked around about this at my son's AYF game the other day. The officials that did that, they're like, I kind of looked on FanDuel to see what the spread was, and I couldn't find the 12U game on FanDuel. And it's the same thing with the high school games. You're not finding it on FanDuel. Like, I don't have any skin in the game. I don't really care who wins and loses. Like there's no side bets that I'm placing on a team that I'm going to throw a flag because I got to cover the over or something like that. And ladies and gentlemen, this one is going to kind of shock you, but yes, the refs are paid off. It's how it works. We do get paid to work the games, and typically we get paid by the Board of Education of the home school. It's usually the home team that is in charge of paying for the officials. We get paid a check. A couple weeks later, we get it mailed home to us. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do get paid off if you want to say that. But we're from all over the place. Not one of us on my crew particularly, we don't all live in the same town. We don't all just officiate the same games. We are part of here in New Jersey a conference that has we're close to 50 teams now. We keep on growing each and every year. And if we see one team twice in a season, that's kind of an oddity. Even with the shortage that we have, our assigner tries not to have us have the same team twice. So yeah, I mean, we are being paid off, but that's our job. Just like if you have a job, you're being paid off too by your boss. So, but other than that, like we're not going to get a decreased pay because we call a penalty against the home team, and we're definitely not getting a bonus if we call a penalty on the visiting team. So, it's kind of crazy some of the things that we do here. I'm going to be full disclosure, and I'm always have been. This past weekend, I refereed at my alma mater. Now I'm 50 years old. I graduated high school 32 years ago. So yes, I still cheer for my high school to do well, but when I'm on the field, I'm cheering for the game. I'm about the game. It doesn't the color, the uniform, none of that stuff matters at that point in time. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to call what I see, and that's the aspect of I'm calling it for player safety. Doesn't
Yes.
matter if my alma mater is the dirtiest, nastiest cheap shot team in the area. Well, they're going to get a lot of fouls. I mean, they're going to get the hankies on the ground all the time. If they're clean, and I could say I do know the head coach, but I also knew the head coach on the visiting team too. So it's I coached for 20 some odd years, so I know a lot of the head coaches or assistant coaches. I don't have any skin in the game still. So it's just something that we hear all the time. That's just it kind of boggles my mind. And I'm not going to lie, when I coached, there were times where I thought it too. I mean, I can't lie, but again, that's the emotional aspect of it. But when you sit back and think about it, they're like, no, they're out there doing a job.
Yeah, I've had some really good and some really poor examples along the way, with coaches that I've worked with. Last year, I got to coach with Bill Blankenship, who's an absolute legend in Northeast Oklahoma and Northwest Arkansas. Something like 6 state titles in a 30-year career or something, right? But I got to see Bill and the way he just very calmly paced the sideline, talked to the ref. He was never degrading. If he had to turn it up a little bit, he could amp it up a little bit. The ref is obviously missing a call, but it was never damaging, right? He was never violent with his words, if you will. It was just, hey, they don't have enough people on the line, right? I can count 5 people in the backfield right now. Like, what are we doing here? Or whatever, right? So he constantly, I even heard him in one game. He's like, basically, hey, it's my job to make sure that you know what's going on. so that was
Yeah.
pretty funny. Like, he's educating refs as the coach along the way because he's been at it for 30 years, right? He
Yep.
knows the rule book. I saw him shut down his coaching staff, and it goes back to the special teams, and there was a field goal from I don't know, the 10 or something, and we missed it, and the ball got moved back to the 20 because it's a touchback. And
Yep.
our coaching staff was upset. He's like, guys, it's the rule. Know the rules. Don't yell at the ref if you don't know the rules. So I've gotten to see that, and then unfortunately I've seen the opposite side where we're berating and yelling at the refs. These are not staffs I stay around very long, so I don't believe in that stuff
Understandable.
either.
And listen, I can't lie. I'm still coaching. I'm coaching youth football. Um, my son's game a couple weeks ago, we had a couple guys on there that I hate saying this, we're paycheck kind of guys. There are some guys when it comes to youth football, they're there because they're working 4 or 5 games that weekend, and we happen to be game 4 or game 5, so it was a hot day. They wanted to go home at that point in time. It was a poorly officiated game. They were tired, and I made not comments to them derogatory, but I'm like, I know the rule on that one. There were two men in motion. That's a live ball play. We got to let that one play out, because if they fumble, we can scoop and score on that. You don't kill that play. You let that one play out. If it's a false start and they're simulated in the snap, that one you got to stop. I'm like, but that to me is officiating 101, and that's from cadet class. That was the first thing that they taught us: is know your live ball, know your dead ball fouls, know when to kill it and when not to kill it. So that one kind of got me upset, because that was a very tight game, and I'm like, guys, come on, let's, like, that's a basic one. But then I shut up and I told my coaching staff to shut up, and we kind of knew what we were in for the rest of the game, and we told the kids, go out and play football, let's move on. So
Yep.
yeah, there's a lot of different things that are out there, and there's a lot of different opinions that are out there, and some are good, some are bad, some are indifferent, but we move on. We do what we have to do, and like I always say, I try to think of us as the third team. There are two teams that are out there battling with each other. There's a third team that's also out there. At the end of the night, only one of them's going home the winner, and that's just the nature of the game. Well, we still do have ties here in New Jersey, so I guess I shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
So
that's
now,
that statement you just made there, just talking about, the three teams. I think that's where, from a fan's perspective, when you see games, especially NFL games, college games, playoff games, that are affected because of the ref, right? And they say, basically the flag changed the outcome of the game. Now, you can see that in college and NFL all the time. And honestly, at that level, you play so much football and you have so long to practice. You should play clean. And if the ref throws the flag because you had a penalty, who cares, right? You lost the game because you didn't do it right.
yeah.
The high school level, I don't know how much. We already have such little time with these kids as it is. There's times that I'm like, maybe we should let them play a little bit. But the rules are the rules. So as long as it's well defined, I don't. Once again, you're never really hostile with the refs. There's no reason to be.
So now, coaching at the high school level, and just a rough guesstimate, how many plays a game do you think that you have on average per game? If you went from opening kickoff to the last play, team taking a knee, how many plays do you think there's going to be on average?
I would say, it probably depends on level, because smaller levels, you're still going to see a lot of flex bone, just eat up the clock. But I'm assuming 120 to 150, somewhere in
That's
that range.
yeah, that's the range that I was thinking of. It's definitely over 100 plays a game, and heck, even my son's youth team, we're playing 90 snaps a game.
Right.
If it's 135 snaps, and we have three flags in the game, and one of them happens to be late in the game, I still think that's a good officiated game. If we
Right.
have 150 snaps and there are 15 fouls and they're warranted, I still think that's a well officiated game. But it's those
Absolutely.
one or two fouls that people tend to, and this is a life lesson. Everybody remembers the negative instead of the 25 positives. They remember that one negative. So I just happen to be wearing the pinstripe, so I'm automatically the negative. And I've resigned to that fact as being an official. We going in there, somebody's going to be unhappy with us one way or the other. But we could literally have one flag in the game, and all of a sudden we lost the game for a team. I'm like, well, what about the other 149 snaps that you had that you didn't score on, or that you didn't stop the other team from scoring on? How about those plays? What about those ones? But that's on us.
I go back to, like, every play there's probably holding, right? That's kind of a saying I've heard. Like, you can find holding on any single play. So if it gets called a few times, and Joe has and I think he talked about it when he came on your show, he has, like, a ref will not throw more than 5 holding penalties in a game or something like that, right? So if you're on your fourth one, go all out, because they may throw one more, they may not, right? They may just let it play out. So, um, you know, I don't, I don't know anymore. I can't hardly heckle the refs they got a hard job to do, man. It's not clear. They don't get instant replay. Look, I'm in the booth as a coach, and right now I'm an analyst helping an offensive coordinator call. And there's times that my eyes are trained on one thing, and the other 20, 15 to 20 kids, I'm oblivious to what they're even doing. So
Yep.
I can't imagine being anywhere on the field supposed to be policing that or regulating that. Like, it would be crazy to try to watch 22 individuals do anything at the same time oh, but that one, I saw him do something incorrect.
Yes. And it is something that we do talk about in our pregame speech that we have with each other. We always meet as a unit before the game, and our white hat has a script that he goes down as reminders, and then we'll bring up anything from the last game. But the one that we always do talk about are the ones that we're going to call the ones that everybody sees. That hold by the wide receiver on the outside, that's one that everybody sees. The holds by the guards and the tackles, we're kind of a little bit more lenient with that because that's happening on both sides of the ball and by both teams. And that one, if they're not running dive or they're not running B gap, it's not right at the point of the attack, I'm not going to throw that one. If it's a toss sweep and a kid's getting held, I'm not going to throw that one. So, like you said, yeah, there potentially could be holding penalties on every play, but we're not going to call it if it's not truly affecting the play. The ones on the edge, those ones are visible to everybody. We're probably going to hit that one, but I'm not going to hit the left wide receiver if it's a toss sweep out to the right. There's no reason for that one. It's a waste of time. And I've had to talk with younger officials. I'm like, all right, well, what did you have? He's like, oh, I had a holding. I'm like, okay, well, you were over on this sideline, and I'm going to honor your call. I said, but we'll talk about that at halftime, or we'll talk about that after the game. And for the younger officials, they're still learning the game and whatnot. And they saw a hold, rightfully so. They had a penalty, but we don't want it to affect the game if it's not affecting the play and so forth and so on. So now
That's a way to look at it because we've seen, we've been held on the backside of a play that, look, I know my guy's not getting there, but as a coach, I want that flag, right? But then I've been on the other side where my left tackle running to the right, my left tackle is tearing some kid a new one, and it's like, okay, we got away with one, but it's the same one we gave up earlier, so not too much of a concern.
No, I do have fun being in the middle of the field when 52, who also is the center, who's playing defensive tackle, and I'm just making up numbers, is like, I was held on that play. I'm like, well, yeah, also held 3 plays ago too. I didn't call that one, and they're like, oh, you saw that? I'm like, yes. And I usually do tell the kids, I'm like, 52, work your hands inside. Oh, okay. All right. Yes, sir. So I let them know that I see it, but if it's not going to affect the play, we're going to go on. But I'm going to, hey, I saw that one. Just be mindful. Let's not do that when it's coming your way.
That's good. And so that's things that we as coaches know. We know that not everyone's going to. We're putting 11 kids at a time out there, and we can pretty much bet that 2 of them are going to do something wrong on any play, right?
Yeah.
You have a crew of 5. So if you go with even just cut the number in half, one ref is going to get something wrong on every play. That's the name of the game. So then it does it matter? Is it a place that matters? I would say the odds are not in the favor that it matters, right?
We're still working on it. We're definitely working on it, and we're trying to improve it all the time. And a prime example of it, this past weekend, the game that we had, the team was running a pick play, and the defense didn't adjust to it. And the first 2 times that they ran it, it wasn't a pick play, but the coach saw it. And the third time they motioned to a trips formation, and sure as heck, we missed it. It was definitely a pick play. Guy ended up being wide open in the flat, and the coach called us over. And I'll always go over with the white hat, so we have 2 sets of ears just to cover each other. And he's like, okay, we've been shooting ourselves in the foot the entire game. But he goes, we now saw and made the adjustment and bumped our kid out wider. That kid got picked. And unfortunately, where it happened is now we're a 6-man crew. There is a dead zone. And we hate having that happen. And it's a terrible excuse, but it happened in our dead zone. And we're like, and we just went back and we've been texting with each other, our whole crew. Check out play 54. We missed that one. Coach was right. We missed that one. And we talked to the coach. We're like, Coach, we'll definitely take a look at it. We're going to focus on that. Thank you for bringing it up. And he did it the right way. He brought it up, and he was right. Watching the film, they were out of position the first 2 times that it happened. But now they adjusted, and now we needed to adjust. And next time it happened, we got them. So it definitely was something that was brought to our attention, and we learned from it. So the coach did it the right way. We learned, and yeah, we missed the call, and it happened. So we kind of just moved on from that. So now, as a coach, and we're talking about getting into the book and different things like that. What's your thought process on how me as an official, you as a coach, how we could work better together to educate each other? Like, is there anything that you've ever thought of on how we can try to broaden everybody's understanding of what's going on?
Man, right now it's exactly what you and I are doing. It's what you're doing with Whistle Talk. It's having something that's entertaining. I love that you switch guests up. You had on guys like Joe, bringing me on. I've seen a lot of football coaches here. You're also bringing refs. I think I watched one the other day. You had a full crew, right, from another
Yes.
state or maybe the opposite side of the state or something. Um, so that's number one way. A lot of people are learning through social media, learning through podcasts right now, and I think that's a place you're doing it really, really well. I think us as coaches, we got to practice a little, extreme ownership. You've got to go out and learn the rules of your sport. We expect these kids to know an entire playbook, and sometimes that's way too big. I went to one school and I had to delete like 350 plays off of the offensive playbook and huddle. And
Oof.
I'm like, why on earth do your kids know 350 plays? Like, what are you actually teaching them? That's insane to me. But that coach had an expectation of his kids from the worst freshman to the greatest senior to learn 350 plays. But I would bet my annual paycheck that he didn't know all the rules. And so I think we have to do our due part. Now, we high school ball is kind of weird, and I think it's like this at all levels. We just don't talk about it enough. But in high school, you've got different levels of experience on a staff. You have a lot of new break-in coaches, right? It's kind of a new man's game right now with offenses developing. The rules are always evolving, um, and those guys are so tied up with just trying to learn fundamentals of football that it is kind of hard to learn the rules. I'm in my fifth year before I truly care about what rules, and I'm really just learning them so I can take advantage of them, right? Like we talked about the
Yeah.
field goal, like scrimmage kicks, and I'm just like, how can I take advantage of this and help my team rather than just doing the same old thing that everyone else is doing. Um, so I think it's just coaches got to go get in a book. At least make one guy on your staff like the rules expert. Buy him a copy of the book. Send him over to Mike's podcast or his show, right? Whistle Talk. Listen to some of the episodes. Hear about the crazy rules that no one knows of and how we've seen them play out. And then, kind of go from there. And then let that. We talk about train the trainer a lot in the military. So get that person trained, and now they can go out and teach the rest of the staff. Like, hey, coach, here's where we can try a field goal, and it's just a touchback if we miss it, so it doesn't matter, right? We're not giving it to them at the
Yep.
50 or whatever. So, yeah, I think that's how we kind of bridge that gap.
So now let me ask you on the opposite side. What can we do as officials, asking a coach and communicating with a coach, what can we do better to understand what you're doing as a coach to make the game go a little bit smoother? Because I know a lot, like the main crux of my show has been about on officiating, and I have had coaches on, but now I don't think I've asked a question to a coach. What can we do better to make it better for you guys? And because there's some officials now, I think I'm an anomaly. I coached for 20 some odd years at college and high school level before I put the stripes on, so I do have an understanding of what you're doing to a point. But what can we do better as an officiating unit to help you guys out?
I think it comes down to just communication, and that's always seemed like the biggest flaw in every system you look at out there anywhere. But I would say over communicate what it is. Like if you have to throw a flag, I want to over communicate. Look, coach, I've saw it 3 times. Okay, we're finally. I've warned, and maybe go give the warnings. Right? You talked about you give a couple.
Yep.
I think when you came on the show, you talked about I give a couple warnings. Hey, coach, I watched this player do this. I'm just letting you know I can't let that go anymore. Right? That way, it's not blindside. Now, should have been a penalty the first time. Yes, he broke the rules, and if it's severe enough, throw it. Right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, and explain it. This is too severe to give you a warning on. Here's what we saw. We got to throw this flag. Um, and then over communicate what you're seeing to us because we can't look at the game the same way you do. So it might be during introductions talking about, hey, this is your sideline reps, and let a relationship be formed before the game. Because I've seen a lot of times, like sometimes those guys on the edges over on the sideline with coach are pretentious, maybe just very. I don't even know the word. Not a diva, maybe, but it's like hard to talk to them. It's like they don't want to have a good conversation with you. Maybe they're afraid to look weak, right? Maybe if I act friendly, then I can't throw a penalty on it. Maybe they don't want to be in a relationship because I feel awkward throwing the flag now.
Yep.
But I would much rather have a good conversation with the ref before the game, go over and stand on the sideline for my half. I don't have to know him by name or anything, but hey, we had a good talk. I explained to you some funky things we do. Here's some funky things I saw that they do on film. We conversed, and now, hey, here's what I'm seeing. I think that's probably the biggest way, man. It's just a lot of communication. Because I mean, outside of that, it's what is it? It's just the rule book, right? It's black and white. If there is gray, we talk about it and say, hey, that was in the gray. My hands are tied, or whatever it is.
Yep. I know one thing that we're doing here in New Jersey. We kind of we're now mimicking the NCAA in this aspect, and the NFL is our sidelines are actually flip flopping at halftime. I don't know if they're doing that in Oklahoma.
Yes.
So, and at first I didn't like it because I used to be a sideline official. Now I'm in the middle of the field, and I enjoyed building up that relationship for number one, my safety. Getting people back off the line is for my safety because the more the coaches and the players are on the field, the more I'm out on the field. And when I'm trying to back up to make a call to get into a safe area, now I'm running into coaches and stuff like that. So I have built up that relationships with the coaches on the sidelines, and they understand that white box is mine. You can come in dead ball, but during the play, please get out of my way because at the time I was 6'3", 230 pounds too. So if I'm running, well, I may win that one, but I don't want to. It wasn't something that was on my to-do list. But then at halftime, we were flipping, and I'd have to restart a relationship. But now we are finding that with the O2Os that we have, the headsets that we have now, we're able to communicate with both sidelines. So we do have a little bit more of an understanding of what the other sideline is going through at a time. And we're able to communicate it better. So if we got a flag by the visiting team's short wing, we're able to communicate it right away to the home team short wing of what the flag is on, who the number was, what the choices they may have, and different things like that. So the technology has definitely helped us out in that aspect. So, but I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that was a
I think
huge pet peeve of mine is not communicating with the coaches when I was a coach.
there's a lot that you could pass on pregame. If you're a stickler for certain things, that's something like we were in a regular season, but playoff seeding was on the line game.
Yep.
And the umping crew let us get all the way to the kickoff. They blow the whistle. We set the ball on the tee. As our kicker runs forward, they blow it dead and then kick 6 or 7 of our players off the field for having wristbands up too high on their arms, right? And it's like,
Wait a minute.
you just
Are
watched
you were
us.
in New Jersey for that, weren't you? Because that happened here, unfortunately. That it was
Not, that was
yeah,
Oklahoma. But we warmed up the whole game with it. We didn't go in and add more things to our arms and legs, right? We went all through warm-ups. And then they wait until the kickoff to kick half of our unit off, and now we got to have backups.
yep.
And it's an important game. And you could tell there was some pre-game communication between we were the visiting team. You tell the home team had discussed it with them because the home team, all of their above the wrist sweatbands were made out of like stretchy tape, and it was October, so they were all pink.
Pink.
Right, our kids were wearing pink Nike. Their kids were wearing pink stretchy tape and that's what they said. Oh, those aren't sweatbands, right? Because we were like, well, look, that team's covered in them.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Well, no, they actually have the thinner, terrible fabric on, so it's not on them. It's only on you. But that was such a quick response. You could tell they had deliberated about this is what's about to happen. So that's just, if you're a stickler for a thing, let us know so we can fix it. Like the kneecap, covering the knee pads. Guys, we're fighting the customs of NFL and college where I don't even think they wear them anymore, right? They've got their football pants rolled into bike shorts of old, and my kids want to look like that. And yes, I get on to them every single week, pull your freaking knee pads down. And every Friday night when we get back, they're folding them under, they've got them up over their, it's just, we're fighting that battle too. So if you're big on that, let us know pregame.
Yep. No, I agree. And to have that happen right at the opening kickoff, we walked the field before the game, we're walking the field, myself as the umpire and the head referee. We're meeting with the head coaches, and our other 4 officials are roaming the field and they're looking at the kids' equipment. Now, something that we have here that I still laugh about is we have pregame visors. Kids will come out with the blacked out visor on, and we're like, "Son, you can't play with that." "Oh, yeah, it's just my pregame visor."
Yeah.
Okay, but we're letting you know you can't come out on the field with that once we're getting ready for the opening kickoff. So, but we're doing that. We're walking around, and same thing with the knee pads. We actually have one team that doesn't. They do their warm ups without their shoulder pads on. Am I going to throw them out if they come out in the game? Well, yeah, but that's their pregame routine. Another team comes out and they wear skull caps instead of their helmets. They're doing the whole thing. Even in the dead of summer, they're wearing skull caps. And we're like, man, you got to be sweating wearing those things. But that's their school's tradition. So come game time, get ready to go. But yeah, we're going to address it. Coach, you know you need a helmet, right? Okay. So as silly as that sounds, it is something that we ask, are they properly equipped? Yes, they are. All right, let's roll. So now, something that I've talked about on a previous show, and you'll probably be able to attest to this. You brought up your family earlier and not knowing the rules. How many times have you been at a game where the PA announcer doesn't know the rules and they're announcing something that is completely incorrect, and now the crowd gets all riled up and you're like, what's going on? And now that makes mom and dad start screaming at what's going on. Have you gotten a chance to witness that one?
Fortunately, I have not. But to be honest, when you're on the field, like I rarely hear the PA announcer, and I haven't gone to a game as a fan outside of like college, which they're pretty good there. I've not
Yeah.
been to a high school game as a fan in quite some time now, so um, fortunately, I've not had that experience. But I can only imagine if the guy with the big voice is riling up the field or riling up the fans on a bad call. Like obviously, that's bad chemistry, right?
Yeah, we had an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which we rarely call, but we had an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. I was on the visiting team that the PA announcer said was on the home team, and the home crowd went absolutely berserk. And we're marching the ball back the correct way, and we're penalizing the visiting team, but just hearing the screams, and we're like, "What the heck's going on?" And our one sideline official that happened to be on the home side, the home coaches knew what was going on, but he's like, the PA guy just threw us under the bus there. So it was
Uh,
something that we just had to move on from, but we're like, oh man, that just got everybody riled up.
Appreciate you, guy up there. That's
Yeah.
But what do you do? It's you can't. I can't teach them X's and O's. You can't teach them the rules. Like it's just it kind of is what it is. Um,
Yep.
Parents generally just don't have. They don't know, and why would they know? Right? Why would I ever expect them to know? I don't expect them to know how to run power, and I don't expect them to know what the true call of holding is. Especially, and I think you talked about this before. Is just they go watch the NFL on Sunday, and this is what DPI is, and here's the result of that penalty. And you go NCAA, and it's a little bit different. You go to high school, it's a little bit different. Like the rules just aren't the same.
And my previous episode is also from Texas. Rules aren't the same in Texas either. So,
They're all NCAA rules, right?
for the most part, yes, with some minor tweaks, but yep, that's exactly what it is. So, all right, Daniel, you brought up talking about some X's and O's. So, kind of a good lead into our next little area here. I got some video for you here.
Okay.
So we're gonna go play the game of Stump the Coach here, and let's see if the coach can pick up. And I'll let it play a couple times. I'll walk you through it. Um, but my first one here, and you're gonna kind of notice a theme here, and it's the referees kind of creed that if something bad is going to happen in a varsity game, it's usually going to be on the kick game. So we've got some different kick type game plays here that I want you to take a look at and see if you could pick up on what's going on with it. So we get the first one queued up here. All right, I just paused it there. All right, so you
Okay.
can see here now the blue team is in a punt formation. Everything looks good here, but we'll kind of let this one play out, and I'll talk through for the people that are listening. So blue team's in a punt formation. Punt gets off. Punter shanks it. It now lands about 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage and now rolls backwards behind the original line of scrimmage. So let me play that one more time for you. And I'll give all the yard markers. So we got the punt is beginning at the 35-yard line on the kicking team's own 35-yard line. Let it play through. The punt is up, and let's see, where does it actually land? Well, the punt landed from the 35-yard line. It landed at the 43-yard line and then took a backwards bounce. And now it is at the 32-yard line of blue. What do you got there? You got anything you can think of?
So you talked about this pregame. I'm going to give before you taught me the rules before upon hitting record here. I would definitely think that is just a downable ball, still returnable by the team in white. Terrible luck of the bounce there. Bouncing backwards 11 yards after you only kicked it 8 yards is not something the home team wants to deal with.
Yeah, it's definitely going to hurt your net average on the punt return for the punter.
My call would be the ball should be non-progressible by the blue. And once they touched it, it would be down, just like if it had gone 50 yards. That would have been my common understanding of the punt game.
So now to follow that up, if the ball had been blocked and it was behind the line of scrimmage, could the kicking team scoop that ball up and run it downfield and try to gain a first down?
I have to say yes.
That is correct.
I have to say yes. It is now a live ball. Once the ball has been touched by the defending team or the kick block team, either way, it would become a live ball and we can take it to the house.
So you're halfway correct. Because the ball stayed behind the line of scrimmage, it is still returnable by the kicking team in that aspect. And in this pass scenario, because the ball, even though it did cross the line of scrimmage, because it came back behind the line of scrimmage, that ball could have been picked up and returned by the kicking team. But the kicking team in that scenario had the same thought process that you and probably 99% of the population would. They thought because it crossed the line of scrimmage that they just downed it at that point in time and had a negative 3-yard punt, where in reality, and I'm going to let this play one more time if you'll be able to see it, if the blue team were to scoop this ball up, they needed to get to that 43-yard line for the first down. Well, white's kind of just standing around, and when it bounces back there, if somebody from blue grabs that, they possibly, if they took it out wide, they could possibly run that for a first down. But they just covered it up, not knowing the rule, and it ended up being white's ball after that. So, like I said, if it's going to be wacky, especially on the windy days when we know that the wind is whipping, and that was that scenario, we were being mindful of that.
So if I kick the ball and it does not cross the line of scrimmage, my guys can take it forward. Is that what you're saying?
100%.
So if I skip kick this bad boy to a slot receiver and the receiving team runs off, that's basically a version of a pass. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I would love to see a kicker be able to do that. But yes, that is correct. As long as it's not kick catching
these rules.
But as long as it's not kick catching interference, because you must give the return team an opportunity to catch the ball. And in that scenario, the ball had already hit the ground, so it's now grounded and it returned back. So it would have to be grounded first.
There we go.
All right, so here's another one here. We're going to go with another punt formation, but now we're going to focus more on the return team in this scenario. So the black team's punts the ball to the white team. And I don't know if you were able to notice that. The team in white with the gold helmets, they had 2 returners back. So I'm going to back it up here, and I'll try to pause it at the right spot. So the white team is getting ready to return, and it's kicked down the left hash. And I don't know if you were able to see that right there where it's frozen. You see that gentleman's hand up in the air?
I do.
He's calling for a fair catch. He's not the one that catches the ball. It's the other returner that catches the ball. So what do you think we got on that play?
So I'm going to trust the guy in stripes here who does not blow it dead and say that this has to be a live returnable ball. And I only say that because I'm pretty sure I have seen trick returns at higher levels. Once again, here I am a fan, right? I'm just going to regurgitate a higher level ruling that I've seen where people will have two returners and one's waiting for the fair catch to draw the covering team, right? When the gunners are running down, I want to draw them to my guy waving his hand in the air. The other guy catches it and progresses the ball. So that would be a live return in my eyes.
Yeah. So now this is a scenario where the stripes did you dirty. This was actually one of our clinic films here because this should have been blown dead. And the ruling is that anybody on the returning team can signal for a fair catch. And that fair catch is to be honored. And the play should have been killed right away, right where the receiving team caught it. The one caveat with that is if black, and if it's a split second type of play and black were to blow that kid up because there's no halo rule in high school, it would not be a penalty on black. Where if the kid who waved for the fair catch caught the ball and then he got blown up, then you would have a penalty on black in that scenario. But because the signal giver did not catch the ball, the returner is not afforded any protection, if that makes any sense.
So he really does have to act like it's live anyway, right? He needs to run and get out of harm's way.
Correct, because in that scenario, he probably didn't even see the other player signal for the fair catch. So that's where it falls upon us to kill that play and blow it dead right away because we saw that fair catch and we need to be cognizant of that. Because some officials, if he were to return that, say, 25 yards, well, if they didn't blow the whistle, some people would get upset because that's technically a delay of game. But if the official blows the whistle right away, well, and then he returns at 25 yards, well, then you could possibly hit him for a delay game penalty. But in that scenario, the fair catch rides should have been killed right away.
Awesome. Good to know.
All right. So we're going to stick with our kick game here for our third clip. So we've got an extra point. I'm assuming this is an extra point. Actually, I wasn't at this game, but I'm assuming from where they're lined up, it's either a very short field goal or it's an extra point here. And you're going to notice a fake.
Your line judge on the left over there is at the 1 to 2 yard line. So I think this is a field goal, right? Because it's not at the 3. And he has a first down marker up. He has a first down marker up as well. So I'm thinking this is live. I don't know why they would kick it on first. Maybe that's a fourth and I can't read it.
No, because I'm looking back at the scoreboard and it says 1st and 6 from the 6. So this whole thing is out of whack. But regardless, we got a scrimmage kick. So we got a scrimmage kick going on here, and I want you to take notice of the holder. Snap happens, holder catches the ball, pops up, and gives it a little shovel pass across to one of the wingbacks who goes in for either a 2-point conversion or a touchdown.
Correct.
What do you got? We got anything with that?
This is a live play because of you, because of our conversations thus far. I've been studying scrimmage kicks a lot. I do know that he is afforded the exemption to have a knee on the ground because he is at 7 yards with a person behind him at least 3 yards in a kicking position. Therefore, as long as he gets his knee off the ground, he can shovel, run, pass, pitch, whatever he needs to do as the holder. If his knee touches the ground a second time, now if I understand, he can even go back and get his knee on the ground to hold it for a kick as long as it's instantaneous for a bad snap. But if he gets up and makes a football-type move and then tries to go back down, he'd be down.
There's my clapping. My clapping made you don't work here.
I'm wrong. I'm so sad. So much time and effort into field goals. This
you banged that out perfectly. There we go. I couldn't have said it any better myself. You are 100% correct. The crowd is going wild for you on that one. Just as you said, because they're in a scrimmage kick formation, 7 yards back, with a kicker back there, everything you said is 100% correct. And if it happens to be a bad snap and the holder were to go up and come off their knee and come back down, we're still letting that play out. But if they were to go up, come back down, and then go back up again, now we're going to have to kill it at that point in time. So exactly like you said, he received that with his knee down. He is able to pop up and play football from that scenario. And the more common one, and that's a fake, but fire, 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 where the ball is bobbled by the holder. They're able to get up and run to try to get that 2 point conversion or throw it in at that point in time. So that one's the more common one that people think of. But when it comes to the fakes, I guarantee you there was a coach that's on one of the sidelines there that was screaming and yelling, his knee was down, his knee was down. And the answer would be, yes, coach, it was.
With the fire, 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 I wouldn't have put those together because I guess just because he's standing up and throwing, But with field goal, I do know you have to have your ineligible numbers on the line of scrimmage, right? You have to have your 5 ineligibles, much like an offensive formation versus the punt formation where you can have whatever you want as long as you have it's got to be 10 yards off the line of scrimmage to punt it,
Well,
right?
you still could have ineligible numbers in a field goal situation, but typically you're going to want your big heavy guys out there, your offensive lineman types. But if you've got 300-pound tight ends wearing 80s and you want them all across, it's still, because it's fourth down, it's still a scrimmage kick formation, and the number exception doesn't come into play. And you, my friend, are a lead-in connoisseur here for my next clip that I want to show you here. All right. So we got, again, another punt formation. Got the white team in a punt formation. The ball is at the 43-yard line of the receiving team. And now all of a sudden, the personal protector is calling for a shift. And they shift into an offensive formation. What do you think you got here?
So the thing that throws me off here is they have removed the kid that was 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, which in
Correct.
my very limited knowledge of the rule book is the key indicator to get the numbers exemption. Just like the knee down exemption on the last play, or exception, I guess. So if he would have stayed at 10, I think you can snap this and do whatever you want because it would just be a fake punt. Because they have removed him from that depth, he's out at wide receiver now. This is just an offensive formation, and if they have ineligible numbers, they're done for.
That would be 100% correct. So we're going to have a penalty here for ineligible numbers. So it's going to be a 5 yard. So basically, it's going to be an illegal formation in the layman's terms. So it's going to be a 5 yard penalty. And this was not picked up on. Again, these are clinic films that I'm grabbing here. So unfortunately, somebody in my association may have possibly missed this one. They call offsides because, well, they're trying to draw the defensive team off sides because it's fourth and about 4 yards here, and they kind of got away with it. Now, we're also looking at a sideline view right now, so I can't truly tell what the numbers of these players are that are lined up here as the linemen. If they are ineligible numbers and they just happen to be on the punt team, well, then what I'm saying is completely null and void. But most punt teams are typically going to be your faster linebacker types that are going to be, especially at the high school level, the linebackers are typically also running backs and tight ends and different things like that. So they're going with their offensive number. So it tends to be more of eligible numbers that are out there for the punt.
So I have a question on this. Because they have not snapped the ball, they also would not have committed an illegal formation penalty, right? It's no different than being in a muddle huddle and waiting to run up to the line. Right. I mean, it doesn't matter who they have on the field right now because they've not snapped it. So does that also prevent them from getting a penalty? Or as soon as there's 11 people established on the field, is it deemed these numbers are ineligible? How does that work?
It's because the formation was now a non-eligible formation that we're going to end up killing that one because of the down and distance. The down scenario is going to come into play with that one. So at that point in time, it's going to be still on the offensive team. Or the kick team, I should.
Hey all, brief interruption here. After post-production and the recording of the last live session, I realized that I made an error and I wanted to come full disclosure. The penalty for the numbering scenario would be a live ball penalty. It would not be killed before the play, but it would be a live ball penalty. So just wanted to add that in. That was my error during the live show. Thank you.
Say. All right, so I got one more clip for you here, Daniel. And this one was brought up to me by previous guests that I had on here. I want you to focus on, and let me pause it here really quick so I can set the table here for our listeners out there. Ball's on the 10-yard line going in. White team is in a trips formation to the right, single receiver down to the bottom of the screen. I want you to focus on the trips receiver all the way up top at the numbers here and pay attention to what goes on there. Oh, video's getting a little choppy.
It's good on mine. Oh,
Did that play for you smoothly, or was it choppy on you?
it did. No, it played really well for me. You may replay it. I want to watch the contact by the two players. In my initial view, it looked like the defender pulls him down by the arm, being a defensive pass interference.
All right, so doing a little stutter go. And you see the flag.
So this is a wide receiver or DB coach's worst nightmare, right? Because you could call like a push off for an offensive pass interference here, but I never saw him extend his elbow. I mean, his arms were already extended. He didn't go from a cocked arm position to unloading and extending his arm. He had the kid held out at arm's length, puts from his left hand to his right hand up at the same length, then tries to go back for the ball with his left hand where the defender pulls him down. I'm calling DPI. I got to see it twice, though, so I don't know what someone may have called it live.
So letting it play through one more time. So the call here was an offsetting penalty. We had offensive pass interference because they deemed that the receiver created the space by extending that arm. And because of the creation of space, the defender now losing the space grabbed and pulled the receiver down with them. So you now had offsetting penalties. You had offensive pass interference and defensive pass interference offset the play and replay the down in that scenario. So it's a unique one. And I'm not going to lie, when my guests were telling me about that, I'm like, you got to send me that film. I want to see that film because I haven't seen it before. But watching it in slow motion, and I was able to blow it up. I know on your screen it's probably a little bit smaller. I was able to blow it up on the full 24 inches and then kind of zoom in. They nailed it. They completely got that one 100% right. It was definitely offensive interference to create it, and the defender then kind of grabbed holds for dear life and pulled the receiver down with them. So it was a fantastic call by that crew. And I know the other ones that I showed, it was kind of throwing our officials under the bus, but that one I got to give the kudos to with that crew. They hit that one right on the head.
Hey, we don't get better if we aren't held accountable. So I would never consider throwing them under the bus. We held them accountable. It's good.
Held them
good
accountable.
For everybody.
Absolutely, better choice of words. I appreciate that. Definitely. So Daniel, that's all I got for you on the clip aspect. So we've actually now reached our hour mark, and it's kind of dangerous when you get bourbon and football conversation going. The time flies.
It can go a long time. Okay.
But with that, I think it's time for us to bid adieu and close out and wrap up this show. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Daniel Chamberlain for taking the time out of his life to join us tonight. Definitely go to his website, go to his podcast, go to the Football Consulting. They are fantastic points of reference for all people involved in football, even for the layperson who just wants to learn the sport of football. It's a fantastic place to go to. Chamberlain Football Consulting, Coaching 101 podcast, Joe Daniel Football podcast. Check those out. And if you're still listening right now, please hit that like and subscribe button for this podcast too. Give me some comments, give me some feedback. I appreciate everybody out there. Daniel, one more time, cheers to you, my friend. Thank you very much. And Buffalo Trace, again, if you're out there, hit us up. We'd love to have Buffalo Trace on representing too.
I would definitely, I would jump right in bed with a Buffalo Trace sponsorship. So, Mike, man, I cannot express how excited I was for you to reach out and to get me on the show. I think it's awesome. I appreciate you letting me text you throughout the week with all of my crazy ideas of how I'm going to take these rules and manipulate them. We're going to figure out a way to do a skip kick pass to a slot receiver off of a punt formation. And I'm going to send you film. It'd probably be a practice film, but we're going to figure it out. So cheers to you, my man. Thanks so much for having me on. I couldn't be happier. If you guys are listening, and because of me, because you're here watching me talk, please go to Mike's stuff. Go listen to Whistle Talk. Learn the rule book. And the best way to do it is having someone else teach you, and that's exactly what Mike does.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, check out those sites, and I will include all those sites in the show notes, so we'll have them all up there. Daniel, have a great night, and I'll give you one more last plug if you want to say anything about your Sooners, go Sooners, or give them a good plug.
They're making their own bed; they can lay in it. If you're listening, just jump over the podcast or the Patreon and let's talk some football. The Patreon's what I'm using to support my family right now. So if you're a parent, a kid, a coach, you're new at this, jump over the Patreon. But more than anything, those guys that taught me ball are where I bring it all from. So joedanielfootball.com or fbcoachsimpson.com. Go over there and let those guys teach you real football.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks a lot once again, Daniel. Have a good night.
Thanks, Mike.